These are my top 5 EV predictions for 2024. Happy New Year to you all! As we begin 2024, I thought I'd kick the year off with something a little bit different that I haven't done before. I'm going to put to you 5 different EV related predictions for the year ahead. And we can check back in on them as the year goes on and check back in on them at the end of the year. It's just a bit of fun really, but as 2023 drew to a close, I couldn't help but think it would have been a really good way to round the year off, was to look back at how I thought the year was going to pan out. So that's what we're going to do this year. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any future videos and updates. And for everyone, make sure you click that like button on this video and get yourself into the comments to let me know whether or not you agree with my predictions, and perhaps show us some of the predictions that you have for how the EV world is going to pan out over the next year. Let's get into it then. These are my top 5 EV predictions for 2024. The first one then is around public charging. I think we're going to continue to see record expansion of the public charging network in the UK as more and more new chargers get installed and commissioned. The ZapMap survey results for last year show that the number of charging devices in the UK grew by 46% year on year, rising to a total of 53,029 devices across 30,853 locations. Ultra-rapid charging numbers almost doubled. 2,295 devices in 2022 became 4,505 in 2023, and I think this particular area is one we're going to see massive growth in as the year goes on. With the Ionity Village hotels installs, and you know what I think of those, we've talked about this in great depth in the past about rapids at hotels, but this isn't the time and we're not going to go into that particular rant. There is a video about that if you do want to check that out though. Those are going to start coming online in the spring, as well as GridServe, MFG, Osprey and others continuing their aggressive rollout and upgrade schemes across the country. So I think the availability of ultra rapid charging in the UK is going to go from strength to strength over the next year. There's been a real boost on the motorway network recently, it feels like, because GridServe are continuing their upgrade scheme and rolling out more and more multi-ultra-rapid sites across the motorway service areas. And then we obviously have Apple Green or Welcome Break doing the same thing at their sites, installing some of their own chargers alongside the existing GridServe ones, which means that capacity on the motorway is definitely improving massively, and I think that is going to continue into 2024. Sadly though, my second prediction is that we're not going to see a huge change in the cost of public charging over the next year. Public charging costs are a huge issue. I think we saw when I did the John O'Groats to Land's End trip and just how much it actually cost, that public rapid charging prices have soared over the past few years and they show no signs of letting up at all. The charging firms are investing huge amounts of money in expanding their networks, and let's be honest, they're going to charge as much as they can get away with so that they can recoup some of that investment. I do wonder if we're going to see some kind of regulation perhaps appear that could control pricing a little bit, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Let's be honest, anything like that requires government intervention isn't going to happen quickly. And I think there are other massive bin fires that the government are trying to sort of keep the flames down on a little bit. So I don't think we'll see any kind of regulation in this market anytime soon at all. I'm not sure the market can bear any more price rises. I don't think the prices can actually rise any more than they already have. But I can see us sticking around that kind of 60 to 80 pence per kilowatt hour mark for a while longer. That does create a huge issue for people that heavily rely on public charging though. As I discussed in my video about costs from driving from John O'Groats to Land's End, there's a massive difference in what it costs to run an EV if you're charging at home over one that ventures a bit further or relies on public charging because you don't have a home charger, or for whatever reason you're using public charging more often than home charging. And unfortunately, I do believe this is going to continue, and 2024 is not going to be the year where we're going to see any real traction made on that particular issue, unfortunately. There is one glimmer of hope for more reasonably priced charging though, and that aligns very, very well with my third prediction for the coming year. Tesla are going to absolutely dominate the public charging space in 2024. If you own a Tesla, you're probably already saying, well, they already do. I never charge anywhere else, why would I? But I'm not talking about you, okay? I'm talking about their expansion into charging for non-Teslas. We have some sites in the UK that have been opened up. In fact, all of the Tesla sites in Scotland are open to non-Teslas, but in England there's only a select few. But the real push forward to become a major player in the charging operator space, I think, is only just beginning. They are building brand new sites with their V4 supercharger units, which are open to all right from the start. They support contactless payments. You don't even need to use the app. It's literally rock up, scan your credit card, charge any car, not just Tesla. And that is default from day one. There are no V4 supercharger sites anywhere in the world, as far as I know, that aren't open to all vehicles. Now, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but at least in the UK and Europe, they are all open to everyone, and that is going to continue. There are a number of V4 supercharger sites under construction, including a 16-bay site at Caledonia Park in Gretna, which is going to make a huge difference to charging in that area. Gretna Services already has quite a lot of chargers. It's got some Tesla superchargers that are Tesla only. It's got some Ionity, it's got some GridServe, and it's got a load of Apple Green now as well. But it's still very, very busy. And of all the services in the UK, if it's somewhere you might see some queuing, it's going to be at Gretna. It's extremely busy. It serves both carriageways. But if you open a 16-bay V4 supercharger site that anybody can charge at, just up the road from Gretna Services, the capacity that enables there is massive. That's going to make a huge difference. Take pressure off the service area, but it's also, for me, going to establish Tesla as the number one choice for charging, no matter what car you have. I don't know why you would go and hope that one of the Ionity units were available if you can just go to a massive supercharger site. Chances are you will get to charge there. Tesla superchargers are pretty cheap. Okay, you might pay a little bit less if you've got like an Ionity subscription type deal thing, you know, like the manufacturer provided ones where it's really cheap. But for everyone else that doesn't, Tesla superchargers are about as cheap as it gets. Whether you have their subscription at like 11 quid a month and get the really cheap rates, or you just pay the walk-up rate, either way, they're much cheaper than everybody else. We even now already have sites in the UK like Reading Services where Tesla have a load of V4 superchargers they've just installed, so they're open to everyone. And just across from them are a load of brand new GridServe Rapids, so you drive in there and you actually have a choice. And okay, yeah, if the Tesla site is really, really busy, you might choose to pay more for the GridServe chargers, but if you go in and both are available, you're going to pick the cheaper option, and I think that brings real competition into the market. This is the first example I can think of where public charging networks are actually properly competing with each other. In a lot of cases, they're not, because you know, GridServe might have a site here, and 10 miles up the road there might be an Osprey site or whatever, but they're not really competing with each other, because if you need to charge, you need to charge. But if you drive into a service area and you actually have a choice, and there are two different networks competing with each other, well, GridServe will only be able to justify their rates that they currently charge for so long. Because if more and more sites get to the stage where you can turn up and charge any car on the Tesla superchargers for 30 pence per kilowatt hour less, say, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? Which one are you going to pick? I think anybody in their right mind is going to pick the cheaper option. So I think that's going to be very, very interesting what that would do to the charging market as a whole if Tesla actually gets serious about bringing in some competition, and it really does look like that's what they're doing. away from charging then, I want to share a prediction about EVs themselves. I think we're going to continue to see soft used prices in 2024. The second-hand market is still finding its feet, still a little bit unsure of electric cars in general. Although used sales are increasing, new buyers have the incentives available to them. They have low company car tax, they can use salary sacrifice, all that stuff, which means new cars will continue to sell. But the used market is still lagging behind a little bit. What we are seeing, though, is more and more manufacturers putting some support behind their used cars in the form of finance offers. So, as you remember, back in July, I bought a Renault Zoe from a Renault main dealer on a massively cheap finance package, which meant it's like 140 quid a month with barely any deposit at all. It really is very cheap. And that meant they could shift the glut of X onto cars that they had on their forecourts, which meant that people were getting into a nearly new Zoe for a really low rate, and it meant that actually if you compare it sort of like with a petrol Clio, for example, it's a no-brainer. Audi have recently done exactly the same thing with a load of e-trons. They've been offering really low rate finance and deposit contributions, which meant people have been getting into an e-tron 50 for like 300 quid a month or something like that, which for a car that's like 65, 70 grand new and is only a couple of years old, low mileage, people are snapping that up because it's a bit of a no-brainer. And this for me is how the used market is really going to take off in these early days that we're in at the moment. Anybody that's worried about warranties, depreciation, or any of the other things that might put you off buying a second-hand car aren't going to be anywhere near as worried about those things if they can get a decent deal on approved used cars. So I think the e-tron deal was like 2 years warranty, 2 years service and all that on a 2-year PCP, which meant that you're getting in there with a fixed monthly cost and you're not having to worry about any of these things that might put you off buying second-hand. And this will allow the used market to mature. Once people realise, because someone they work with bought a 2-year-old e-tron on a really cheap deal and it was absolutely fine and didn't need a replacement battery 10 minutes into the agreement, contrary to popular belief, or whatever it is that they're held up about, people will be less and less scared about buying older and older EVs, and therefore the used market will mature as you would expect it to. It's great news in the short to medium term, though, that if you want a decent EV, but you don't want to pay the brand new price for it, this avalanche of used cars is going to show no sign of slowing down, and you're going to be able to get into more and more really good cars for really low rates. People, like I said, people are currently getting the e-trons for 300 quid a month on 2-year deals, all inclusive with warranty, service and all that stuff included. And I think we're going to see similar deals like that from other manufacturers on other cars. I really do think 2024 is going to be the year of the very reasonably priced finance offer on second-hand EVs that are barely used, that are low mileage, and I think that'll be what will prompt an awful lot of people to dip their toe in the water. And finally, continuing this theme of bargain basement EVs, we turn to the Maxis T90 EV. My prediction is that it's not going to be as bad as people say it is. And well, I'll find out very shortly, given that my one is meant to be delivered within the next couple of weeks. Everybody's telling me how crap they are, that, why did they even release a rear-wheel drive pickup in the first place? Various other tales of woe, mainly from people that haven't driven one, but some of the reviews are pretty scathing as well. I remain optimistic that, especially for 100 quid a month, it will be a perfectly acceptable vehicle that will prove to be useful in the long run. You'll need to stick with me throughout 2024 to find out just how wrong I am on that one, so do make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on if you aren't already. So there we have it. Those are my top 5 EV predictions for 2024. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you agree with them, or do you have a different point of view? I would also absolutely love to hear your own predictions for the year ahead, and I'll pick the best few of them and I'll feature them in the follow-ups throughout and at the end of the year. But that's it for this video though. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.